Athletics continues to not help itself with some controversial changes to their flagship annual Diamond League series. Hot on the heels of a poorly attended World Championship, midnight marathons and drug and doping bans, now the IAAF have seemingly alienated some of the sport's biggest names. This is Anything But Footy, your Olympic and Paralympic sport podcast, where we round up another week of talking points, including getting the opinion on those changes from the 2018 British champion over 200 metres, one of those affected events. I'm Michael.
Hi, my name's Beth Dobbin. I'm a 200 metre sprinter and I'm going to be discussing the recent announcement by the IAAF to cut certain events from the Diamond League programme.
And I'm John, and in the next half an hour we've the latest from the first few days of the Para Athletics Worlds. Shame hardly anyone in the stands in Dubai. Who's been on track for British cycling at the World Cup in Glasgow? Adam Peaty's beaten by a fellow British swimmer. What? And which British city is celebrating the title of European Capital of Sport for a record second time?
Don't forget, you can always email us. We love to get your messages. anythingbutfooty@gmail.com. You can go to our website, anythingbutfooty.com. Tweet us. That's always popular. Anythingbutf. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, on YouTube as well. You'll be able to listen to us, download us on Apple, Google Podcasts, on Spotify. We urge you to rate us and comment on us as well. And don't forget to check out our sister series, GB Bosses, Great British Bosses. And we've spoken to the people in charge of table tennis, badminton, swimming, gymnastics and fencing as far as sport in this country is concerned. We've got a 6th episode, the last in the present series, coming your way very soon. Make sure you look out for that one as well. GB Bosses, Great British Bosses from Anything But Footy. But as John says, let's start with a big talking point of the week and the IAAF announcement over the future of their Diamond League series. They've announced this week they're going to be cutting some disciplines. Well, they announced in the past they were going to be cutting some disciplines. This week they finally announced what exactly it is they are going to cut. 200 metres, 3,000 metre steeplechases, discus and triple jump, all cut as far as core events. The aim for the IAAF is for a 90-minute programme, that is to suit broadcast television and radio, and it means that at the 15 Diamond League meetings we'll have 12 disciplines at each. So the steeplechase and the 200 metres will now only feature at 10, so we'll have 5 male events and 5 female events. The discus and the triple jump will feature at 2, so we'll have 1 female and 1 male event. As I said, they've been removed from the core list and they won't feature, John, in the Diamond League final.
And as you rightly say, Michael, World Athletics, the IAAF, say they want to create a 90-minute show for broadcasters, with Lord Seb Coe saying our objective is to create a faster-paced, more exciting global league that will be the showcase for our sport. And if you don't know what the Diamond League is, because, you know, it's not something that maybe gets televised on BBC or terrestrial television on a weekly basis, it is, you know, kind of the Premier League for athletics. So it's the weekly or fortnightly competitions right through the summer in cities right across the UK, Europe, the world, as we saw in Doha as well. So it's kind of like, you know, where the athletes do their week in, week out, trying to get times with the opportunity to also qualify for major championships. So this is a big thing, and you can understand why the athletes are disappointed. Now, rather than me and Michael tell you what they think, we thought we'd ask one of them. So we caught up with Beth Dobbin, the British 200 metre champion who reached the semi-finals in Doha.
The IAAF have said that they will replace these events in like another type of meeting called a continental tour, but we're still waiting for information on that competition. So I think the triple jump, we have an athlete at the moment, a female athlete called Rojas, and she's within 20 centimetres of the world record at the moment. So we're kind of facing kind of a realistic realisation that the world record for the triple jump could be broken next year, and it actually won't even be televised because the Diamond League have cut the triple jump from their programme. Likewise, you've got the rivalry between Christian Taylor and Will Clay. And I think in history, only 6 male athletes have jumped over 18 metres and 3 of them are competing today. So you're kind of missing that amazing rivalry. the IAAF, or now they're branded as World Athletics, always pushing for a new Usain Bolt. We need a new Usain Bolt. We need a character in the sport to, be the face of the sport like Usain Bolt was. Well, at the moment, funnily enough, we have a 200-metre sprinter called Noah Lyles. Now, he's quite a big personality. Similar to Usain Bolt, had a big personality, and he's a 200-metre sprinter. So you're axing his event when you're asking for someone that's going to have this big personality. So it just doesn't make sense, really. And the way the IAAF have said that they've done this is by kind of questioning certain countries on what events they find is the most popular. So the certain countries that they've questioned probably wouldn't prefer the distance events. And so the IAAF haven't questioned any African countries, which obviously the endurance events are much more popular in African countries because they generally do better in them. So things like the steeplechase, that's been cut. The 5K and the 10K have already been cut. Well, no African countries have been questioned on this. Similarly, in Great Britain, a lot of athletics fans have kind of taken to Twitter asking where was this questionnaire done, because they go to the athletics meets in the UK and they don't feel like they've been questioned. So there's a big question mark about how they've come to that idea. And again, just to touch on the discus throw, which was absolutely amazing in Doha, a really, really good competition for both the males and females. So again, that question's why has that been cut? Now, if it is people being questioned who have been to athletics events or have watched it on TV, the triple jump and discus in particular are often shown in the pre-programme, which means they don't even make the 2-hour slot that the Diamond League is given on TV. So obviously they're going to be voted less popular if they're the start of the programme, because if it's in the stadium, not that many people will be there. And again, if it's on TV, that the pre-programme won't make the cut for the TV. So that's going to have an effect. And the IAAF have basically said that they want to cut that 2-hour slot that we have down to 90 minutes. Now, with that, there's the question of where's the 90 minutes come from? Who's plucked that figure out of? Probably thin air. And also, if you're taking less events out and cutting the time out, surely it's going to be the same amount of action. What they've said, or what Seb Coe's said, is that he wants a fast-paced 90-minute burst of action. Well, if you've taken out 5-6 events, it's not going to be any faster pace. It's going to be the same pace, just on for a short amount of time. And I find it really hard to believe that people can't sit down and watch something on the TV for more than 2 hours, especially in athletics when things are chopping and changing all the time. The Tour de France goes on for weeks. People watch tennis for hours on end. Football matches are long. Rugby matches are long. Tennis matches can go on for hours. So a 2-hour slot of athletics where different things are literally happening all the time, I find it really hard to believe that's people find that boring. I think probably the main issue is the way it's shown, and a lot of the fans on Twitter have said they would like things like a split screen, so you can watch an endurance event whilst watching the multiple field events are going on. And in particular, certain broadcasters have a lot of studio chat, so a lot of kind of athletics fans are against that because we just want to watch the athletics. So I think the issue isn't how long it's being shown for, it's how the IAAF or whoever's broadcasting it is displaying it.
So, Michael, Beth makes some really, really good points there. Standing out for me in there, really, they say they want rivalry and competition in athletics, and she talks about the triple jump men's competition, the women's triple jumper who's listed as one of the female athletes of the year. Next year you won't even see her in the world in the Diamond League. And Noah Lyles, the next Usain Bolt, his actual event is cancelled. I mean, it seems crazy.
Yeah, it does, and other big names affected. Dina Asher-Smith, potentially, of course, world champion, over 200 metres, and Christian Taylor as well. And Christian Taylor, the triple jumper, who lists himself as a 2-time Olympic champion, a 4-time world champion, and a 7-time Diamond League champion. He said it's damaging the sport. He says it harms unity and diversity. And he wants a say on how the sport is run from an athlete's point of view. So he has promoted this new association, the Athletes Association, the Athletics Association. He wants to lead this, and we've got lots of big names joining up already. But it's interesting, isn't it, that Christian Taylor feels the athletes should have more of a say on how the sport is run. Who runs the IAAF? Lord Coe, who's a former athlete, and John Ridgeon, who's the chief executive, is a former athlete. They should know, surely. But they are set, they are hung up, they are obsessed, I think, with this idea of creating some kind of product for television.
But why?
And they think that has to fit into 90 minutes.
But, where's that come from?
Well, I don't know. I guess because someone somewhere has gone, well, 90 minutes is the length of a game of football. And game of football works well on television and everyone wants to watch it. So we should try and replicate that with athletics. It's the latest sort of bit of muck that's being thrown at the wall as far as track and field is concerned. You know, they've tried various different stagings of different events. They've tried different attempts at doing things. We obviously had that big event in London, which they bizarrely staged at the same weekend as the F1 Grand Prix and the Wimbledon finals. They tried to do something a bit different there. And this is what this is. But I think they've got this one completely and utterly wrong. And I think what they've done, worst of all, is one, they've alienated fans of specific disciplines, because if you're an athletics fan, you want to watch 100 metres, 200 metres, 400 metres, 800 metres, 1500 metres, etc. If you want to watch field events, you want to watch a long jump, a high jump, a triple jump, a discus, a javelin, a hammer, whatever. But most importantly, they have upset the athletes, and the athletes are now looking, in the same way we've had in darts, for example, at forming their own rival tour. And that, for me, would be the end of the sport, nearly. Yeah,
and we'll hear a bit more from Beth on that in a moment. So the Diamond League, you know, they obviously need broadcasters' money, and they need broadcasters to carry it for their sponsors. So money is part of this, but a 90-minute event, you know, as Beth said, you know, rugby lasts longer than that. Football lasts actually longer than that, as we well know. What about
VAR?
What about you know, split screens? Actually, you know, people want to watch stuff when they want to watch it now. So what about YouTube channels with just one feed on the long jump pit, or you know, give people coverage of what they actually want, rather than, it seems like a 1970s thing. Let's produce a 90-minute programme all wrapped up. It's like highlights. It's like match of the day without actually the competition going on.
It's like Seb Coe and others remember that the 80s heyday, where you watched an hour of athletics on ITV, and then if you so desired, you switched over and watched the second hour on Channel 4. And it's as if they're trying to kind of recreate that. I don't know whether 90 minutes is the right time. They've done their research. They've done research in China, France, South Africa, the USA. They've surveyed in Belgium, Great Britain and Switzerland. The problem for me with the Diamond League...
Not Africa.
Not Africa, not America. The problem for me with the Diamond League, you just don't know when it's on. When we were growing up, it was the Golden League. It was on a Friday night. Whether that's the right night for it, I'm not sure. But I think if you had a series of Diamond League events and they were every Thursday evening, a bit like a Champions League night, they all kick off at 8 o'clock in the evening in the UK, whether that's 9 o'clock in wherever, or, you know, 10 o'clock in Moscow or whatever. But if you have a schedule which is set and it's appointment to watch, appointment to listen, I think you'd go a long way to getting people buying into it. At the minute, you've got London Diamond League, which is a 2-day event. You've got this anomaly that this country hosts Birmingham and London, but you've got other big countries missing out. You do go to some of the big countries, the traditional countries like Helsinki and Zurich as well. They're obviously trying to spread the word and taking it to other nations and territories which haven't got the track record, excuse the pun, of hosting athletics events. But you simply don't know when it's on. You don't know who's in it. You can't follow a narrative. There's no stories to follow over the season. Of course it's failing.
I mean, you mentioned Noah Lyles. Adam Jamili tweeted a kind of really gif with a very strange question mark, the British champion, of course. Daphne Shippers, former world champion as well, saying, confused. The latest Diamond League research shows the 200 metres is one of the most popular disciplines, and now it's not included? Seriously, question mark? And we mentioned Christian Taylor as well. So let's go back to Beth. Beth Dobbin, the British champion, 200 metres, says there's a lot of unhappy people. We've mentioned some of them there. Athletes and spectators as well. And she says this decision could be a game changer for the sport. and not the way Seb Coe or the IAAF think.
Obviously, it does have a lot of implications financially. Athletes can't make money if they're not going to be at the event. And also the IAAF have introduced a ranking system, which means certain competitions are worth more points than others. Well, if certain athletes can't get into the Diamond League because their event's been cut, how is that going to affect their ranking system? There has been a bit of uproar in the athletics community. So multiple Olympic and world champion Christian Taylor, who does the triple jump, has taken to Twitter to set up an athletes association to voice these views that we all have, because I've seen a lot of negative comments about this. I think I've only seen one positive one out of hundreds and hundreds, and it's from a retired athlete. So yeah, Christian Taylor is kind of trying to boycott this, and a lot of athletes, including current world champions, are with him on this. And yeah, we're willing to kind of almost boycott the Diamond League or whatever it takes to say to the IAAF or World Athletics that we're not going to stand for this. And it's seen kind of even Adam Peaty has got involved, and you know, he's nothing to do with athletics, he's a swimmer. So for him to notice this is going on, it's obviously spread to the mainstream media. Finally, the biggest kind of implication that athletes are worried about is if you're going to cut it from a Diamond League, does that mean it's then going to be cut from the Olympics in the future? So yeah, that's what athletes are kind of worried about at the moment. But I feel like with this boycott that Christian Taylor's leading, hopefully this decision can be reversed.
So Michael, the Diamond League, supposed to be the best of the best, the pinnacle of athletes competing week in, week out. How can you have some world champions not there? How can you split up athletics? It's like the beginning of the end, isn't it? If you're not saying some athletics events are not as good as the others, that means athletics is not as good as other sports, in my opinion. That's what they're saying. And we mentioned the Athletics Association a bit earlier as well, and Beth did there, tweeting yesterday, saying that they let the hammer throwing down because that was dropped previously, and they said, we are not going to do that again. Hashtag, we are the sport. If they pull out of the Diamond League, it won't happen. Will they boycott it? And that was the big word that I took from Beth's piece there. A boycott?
Yeah, and it was, I think, got massive implications for the IOC and the Olympics as well, because as we well know, the Olympics are chasing a younger and younger audience, bringing in events like skateboarding and bouldering and surfing and things like that. So the IOC have got their eye on the younger audience, the YouTube generation, if you like. So they'll be watching this with interest. What will the athletics program be like at an Olympic Games in Tokyo? We know what it's going to be, but in Paris, in Los Angeles and beyond that, how does this impact? If we're dropping the 200 metres from the Diamond League, do we then go ahead and maybe drop the 200 metres from the World Championship, from the Olympic Games?
And that's the fear, isn't it, as Beth finished off with, that fear to future cutting of Olympic sport, because we all know in athletics the Olympics is the pinnacle of athletics, and you just... I think the athletes have to stand together, and do they set up their own event like the swimmers have done with the International Swimming League, which is in London in the next week or so, that Adam Peaty has been supporting. It seems to be the time for someone to go, this isn't right for us and it's not working for us. And I think World Athletics and Seb Coe have got to rethink this slightly.
Yeah, well, thanks to Beth Dobbin, the 2018 British champion over 200 metres, for joining us on Anything But Footy, your Olympic and Paralympic sport podcast. Don't forget, get in touch with us if you want to have your say about the future of the Diamond League and about the future of the sport of athletics in general. anythingbutfooty@gmail.com. Tweet us at anythingbutf. You can find us online as well, our website. We can get messages there, anythingbutfooty.com. On Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube as well. This is just another hammer blow, isn't it, for a sport we both love, track and field. Follows, of course, the recent doping and drug problems that the sport has had to deal with, and news on this week that Britain's anti-doping authority is now to review whether it needs to take action against Alberto Salazar-trained athletes. That follows his 4-year ban for doping violations by the US anti-doping authorities. The chief executive of UCAD, the UK anti-doping body, Nicola Adams, says, "We're now working with WADA, the World Anti-Doping Authority, and with the US anti-doping authorities to review athletes and support personnel under our jurisdiction." This, of course, all relates to the Nike Oregon project, which existed for 18 years between 2001 and 2019, a project that Mo Farah, of course, the 4-time Olympic champion, British athlete who will be now part of this review, was part of between 2011 and 2017. The WADA president, Craig Reedy, said this week all athletes who trained with Salazar will now be investigated, and that's something the IOC president, Thomas Bach, has previously called for.
And please have a listen back to Anything But Footy if you've missed us talking about Salazar and all the implications of that in the last few weeks. It's well worth a listen. Now, the first half of the week-long World Para Athletics Championships has been taking place in Dubai. The event, of course, they stepped in, the hosts, last year to host the event because nobody had bid for it. Great Britain has a strong team of more than 40 athletes and nearly a dozen reigning world champions. And one of the stories so far has been Hannah Cockroft. She had all the pressure against her as defending and Paralympic champion in the T34 100 metres, and fellow Brit Carrie Adenegan's European title victory against her last year and a world record. But it was Cockroft who stormed to victory in a new world record and under 17 seconds for the first time ever, even in training, for her 11th World Championship gold medal. Adenegan, who only started university a few weeks ago, recorded a season's best for silver, and Cockroft admitted afterwards that with her rivalry with Carrie, she was nearly in tears as she crossed the line. Absolutely great story between these two. There is rivalry between them, but that is what you want in world-class sport, and they both go again in the 800 metres just before 6 a.m. on Thursday. Lots of other medals as well. More success for Alan Davis, who won a brilliant world title for the 4th time in a row in the F63 shot put. He was in silver medal position for much of the competition before throwing 15 metres and 32 to claim gold. And also another gold on a Super Sunday for British athletics for Maria Lyle in the T35 100 metres in her 3rd World Championships. Medals as well for Paul Blake on the first night, his 4th Para Athletics world title, this one in the T36 800 metres. Silver for Andrew Small in 100 metres with Harry Jenkins grabbing bronze. And a quick mention for Sammy Kinghorn as well. She won bronze in the T53 100 metres. She was the defending champion, but admitted afterwards she was pleased to make it on the podium on her return from serious injury. Just one other point on this. 300,000 tickets were sold for London 2017 for the World Para Athletics Championships. Some criticism from athletes that competing in front of school kids and family is a step backwards in Dubai. But as we discussed after Doha 2019, organisers, of course, are keen to spread the word of athletics in other parts of the world.
And no better role model to do it than 11-time world champion Hannah Cockroft. Hurricane Hannah from Halifax in Yorkshire. I don't know what they put in the water in Yorkshire, but they have got a decent track record of producing athletes. None other than Nicola Adams, the boxer who has announced she is retiring this week following news that she has a potentially serious eye injury. She announced her retirement in a letter to her local newspaper, the Yorkshire Evening Post. And Nick Westby is the sports editor of the YEP, as it's known locally, the Yorkshire Evening Post. And he told Anything But Footy how the world exclusive announcement in his paper came about.
The Yorkshire Evening Post has been covering Nicola Adams now for, must have been, 25 years, ever since the mother, Dee, of a 12-year-old girl from Bermontoffs rang the desk and said, "My daughter is looking to become a boxer. She's got her first fight. Would you mind doing a few stories on her?" Dee would ring up for the next few years, really, probably next decade or so, before she became a household name, Nicola, as she climbed the ranks, winning an English title, breaking into the GB boxing squad, and then from 2010 really onwards, the phenomenal career she would go on to have. And I think that's what brought her back to us last week. Her agent got in touch with us a couple of weeks ago, said, "Nicola's got a big announcement. Can we do it through your paper? She wants to thank the people of Leeds through the paper that's always backed her," which was really special for us as a sports desk, as a newspaper, to be able to break that world exclusive, really. You don't get many of those these days.
That's Nick Westby, the sports editor of the Yorkshire Evening Post, talking about how the announcement by Nicola Adams to retire from the sport of boxing came about. And John, you've been in the business of news and sports news and exclusives over the years. This is a big world exclusive, and it's not one that's fallen in their lap. It's one that, as Nick was saying there, has been 2.5 decades in the making.
I tell you what, it shows the character of Nicola Adams that she didn't forget where she'd come from, and I know that Nick made that point really, that and we see it so often, and athletes have been supported from the early days of their careers right through by the local paper, and it's just great that she has given them this world exclusive, because the world of media has changed in the 20 years I've worked in it. Exclusives are what people are fighting for. You're trying to get column inches in the papers, you're trying to get a tweet, you're trying to get a retweet, you're trying to get a headline on the 10 o'clock news. That is what it's all about, and boy, that was a great way to do it. And I thought that it was the right decision for her, and it shows the class of her as a double Olympic champion, the first ever female boxer in Olympic history, the first British boxer since 1924 to defend her Olympic title in Rio as well, and then to turn professional and do what she's done, and then announce her retirement as well in that way. Absolutely well done to her.
Let's hear a little bit more now from Nick Westby, the sports editor of the Yorkshire Evening Post, the journalist who you can probably say knew Nicola Adams best of all over the years. He put her career and achievements in context for us.
As a career in itself, Nicola Adams has got to be one of the, for me, great female sporting careers in British Olympic history. Obviously, the first woman to win an Olympic boxing gold medal, certainly the first to retain one when she did in Rio, but she was continuously punching through glass ceilings in her career with those two Olympics, the Commonwealth Games, the final world title, and then having a world title awarded to her just in July in the professional ranks. I think that will probably have helped make her mind up about whether the time is right now for me to move on. So incredibly proud to have her in Leeds, have her in our patch. Such a genuine person, such a really nice person. I had the good fortune, as you did, Mike, to be down there at London 2012 covering her, and she really did light up the black hole that was the XL Arena. Her smile, that beaming, radiant smile, the dancing feet, the alley shuffle, and those ferocious fists. She was a phenomenal sight to see, real special talent. Personally, I'm just glad I got to play a small part in chronicling that for the Yorkshire Evening Post in 2012 and thereafter, and also that we were able to play a part in following her career and chronicling it from the age of 12 all the way to the very end at 37.
Just a quick word finally. Thanks very much to Nick Westby of the Yorkshire Evening Post for joining us there. Just a quick word finally on Nicola Adams. She worked as an extra in soap operas. She worked as a builder as she chased her Olympic dream. And then one day in 2009, everything changed for her. The IOC said women's boxing is going to become a reality. It just so happened for Nicola Adams it was going to be at London in her home games. A serious back injury nearly ruined her chances as well. But, she'll look back on that career and she'll probably wish it was able to start maybe in Olympics earlier. And she'll look back and be very pleased and very proud with everything that she's done. And I guess as well, as Nick was telling us there, her mother, Dee, as well, has been her biggest fan the whole time. Always supported Nicola Adams. And that support from family, John, as you and I know, when we go abroad to some of these major events, and there's not many people there, and you referenced it, of course, with the para-athletics at the minute, it's that support from family and friends, certainly in the early days, that gets you through.
Certainly does, and she'll go down in history and inspired so many. Well done, Nicola.
Yeah, let's move on to some cycling now. And the second event on the Cycling World Cup circuit is been held in Glasgow. Plenty of medals for British cyclists in the para events. Loads and loads of medals there. And also medals for Katy Archibald, Eleanor Barker, Nia Evans and Elaine Dickinson in the women's team pursuit. They beat Germany really convincingly. The men finished fourth. There was also a gold medal as well for Katy Marchant in the women's keirin. Absolutely meant the world to her. Huge confidence boost for her as well. Katy Archibald was also involved in a silver medal win in the women's Madison alongside Eleanor Barker. In the men's Madison, Ollie Wood and Ethan Hayter took silver. And in the men's sprint, Ryan Owens, Jack Carlin And Joe Truman, who replaced Jason Kenny for the final, also picked up a silver medal. Talking of Jason Kenny, fourth in the men's keirin was his best event across the weekend. There has been some history made, though, for British cycling over the weekend in Chengdu at the Urban Cycling Championships, BMX for you and me. The first British woman to win a medal at this event, Charlotte Worthington, who picked up a bronze medal for Great Britain. Well done, Charlotte.
And just quickly on that, gold for Katy Marchant in the keirin and a fourth for Jason Kenny, but he was in the final this time, which he wasn't the week before, so good to see them getting back on track. And congratulations to Glasgow. It's become the first city to take the title of European Capital of Sport twice. It beat off competition from Genoa in Italy to be awarded the status in 2023, 20 years on from the first time that they held it. And it will coincide with the first ever UCI Cycling World Championships. And we've mentioned this before on Anything But Footy, where all the cycling and paracycling events on the track, road, mountain and BMX will take place together for 2 weeks in August. So from 2023, the UCI Cycling World Championships will be held every 4 years in each pre-summer Olympic year, and over several weeks the host city will become the true cycling capital of the world. To Glasgow, congratulations again.
Yeah, we've got Birmingham and the Commonwealth Games in 2022, but I think if the Olympics were to come back to these shores in John and my lifetime, aside from London, which I think could step up and host the Games again, I think Glasgow is probably the second best positioned city right now in the United Kingdom if we were to try and stage the Olympic Games again. Talking of the Olympic Games, table tennis, of course, is an Olympic sport, and it will be a Paralympic sport as well, of course. England, though, have lost to Chinese Taipei in the quarterfinals of the Team World Cup. Remember, England did win a medal last year. England were the last European nation left in the draw. They beat the host Japan fantastically on the opening day in the group stage. Japan did end up qualifying. They joined Chinese Taipei, China, and South Korea in the last four. But it's credit to Liam Pitchford, Paul Drinkle, Tom Jarvis, Sam Walker and Gavin Evans making his debut, and just goes to show some of the strides that we are making in this country to try and get table tennis at the top table. You see what I did there, John?
Another strong week for British badminton. I'm speechless. Another strong week for British badminton as they continue their bid for Olympic qualification spots at the China Open, the latest round of the Badminton World Federation World Tour. And Rio bronze medalists Chris Langridge and Marcus Ellis made it through to the quarter-finals, beating one of the Chinese pair in the last 16 of the men's doubles. Again, performing above and beyond before losing 21-10, 21-13 to Japanese pair Komura and Sonoda.
And congratulations to Alice Tighe, someone we met recently at the UK Sport National Lottery 25th birthday celebrations in Stratford. We'll have more news on that for you in due course on Anything But Footy. Alice has beaten Jack Law and Adam Peaty to be named British Swimming's Athlete of the Year. The 7-time para-swimming world champion got a standing ovation. She described it as an honour. And just to put that in some context for you, this was the year, of course, that Adam Peaty became the first person in history to break that 57-second barrier in the breaststroke. Alice was also named Paraswimming's Athlete of the Year.
And Sky Brown and Alex Takuna, the British frontrunners to represent Team GB in the first ever Olympic skateboarding competition in Tokyo, are back in action this week, looking to bag more points for Olympic qualification. The World Skate 5-star open street and park skateboarding event is in Rio, and it's the first global competition in season 2 of the qualification series. 11-year-old Sky Brown is currently ranked 3rd in the world after her World Championship bronze. 22-year-old Takuna is currently ranked 30th in the world and will be competing in the street skateboarding event. He's just a few points off the Olympic qualifying group. Good luck also to Jordan Thackeray, Alex Halford and Sam Beckett are in action for Great Britain in the male park event.
And if you want to have your say on anything we've discussed on Anything But Footy this week, maybe you want to have your say about the changes to the Diamond League, you want to pay tribute to Nicola Adams, tell us where you were when she won her Olympic gold medal in the XL Centre in London in 2012. If you want to talk about Jason Kenny's chances of being on top of the Olympic podium again, or send your congratulations to Alice Tighe for being British Swimming's Athlete of the Year, you can email us anythingbutfooty@gmail.com. You can tweet us at anythingbutf. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. Don't forget you can find us on Apple, Google Podcasts, on Spotify as well. We'd love you to rate us and comment. And just another plug as well, for our sister podcast, Great British Bosses, we have another episode coming your way very soon.